Hello, my sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel. It is so good to see all of y'all, and I am so glad y'all are here because you're going to help me renovate this entire space. Okay, so you're not really going to help me, but I'm going to take y'all along with me as I do all of the work, and then you can just sit back and watch and enjoy and pretend you helped me without all the labor. So you may notice behind me a very blank canvas. This room was recently vacated by our youngest son who has graduated from high school. He's gone into the military. He's off starting his adult life, his new chapter in life. And now I have this empty room. So I thought it would be a ton of fun to give this entire room a whole brand new makeover, a whole brand new look, and see if we can't just give it a little sophistication. So that is what we're working on. The first thing I'm going to do is take y'all around, show you the whole entire space, kind of go over a few of my plans with you, and then I'm going to start painting. So, are y'all ready to go renovate a room? I am. I think it's going to be so much fun. Okay, so here is the space. Here is our very, very blank canvas. So this is walking in the door, and then you walk into the room. This wall, we have some closets. Over here, we've got this weird little cubby because these little bump outs are actually plumbing, and this was done before we moved into our house because we would have done it a little differently. But these bump outs are some plumbing that had to be retro added in, and this is how they chose to do it. So my plan for this little cubby over here is to, let me see if I can back this out so you can see it just a little bit better. I think we're going to do some built-in shelving here, like a built-in bookcase here. This wall over here, I think, is where I'm going to do a desk and some artwork, and just a few things. But here's the real struggle that I've had with this room is ideally when you walk into a room, the bed is your focal point, and that's the first thing you kind of want to be greeted with. So ideally, I would love to put the bed on this wall. However, I'm putting a queen size bed in here, and it's just not going to fit properly with the placement of the window. So my plan is to put the bed here, which is actually not a bad place because I've got two outlets, so we can do bedside tables with some cute lamps or whatnot. My only thing is I don't like walking into a room and straight into a bed, but I really don't have a lot of choice. So we're going to make this wall and this window wall our two accent walls in this room. And we're going to do some fun things on this wall. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So for right now, the first thing I'm going to tackle is getting these two walls painted. So the color palette that I'm going to go with in this space is a really pretty olive green. I'm going to add in some warm cream and khaki tan colors just to keep this space in a very warm, neutral color tone. And then I'm going to add in some splashes of some gold accent colors. I've got some really pretty gold lighting fixtures that I want to add into this space just to give a little pop of, a little pop of, what's the color I want? Bling, I guess. We'll just use that gold as our blingy color in this space. But I definitely wanted to keep the color palette in here very warm and inviting, very cozy, welcoming, because I am turning it into a second guest space. And I definitely want my guests to come in here and feel like they are being enveloped in a nice warm hug when they come to stay. So let's get some paint on these walls. I am really excited to get some color on these walls and see how it's going to look. Okay, here we go. The color's going on, so there's no turning back now. Every time I start to paint a wall, I get really nervous for this part, especially when choosing a bold color like this. But as I was rolling this color on, I started to feel really good about this color choice. I was really, really loving it. So let's just continue painting and Hope for the best that once it's all on and both walls are done, I'm going to love it as much as I am loving it in this moment. So I did have a brief moment here where I was like, oh, what have I done? I'm not sure I'm going to like this. But in the end, it turns out that I really truly did love this color. After I got 2 coats of paint on, got all the cutting in done, this is what it looks like. Here's the bed I've chosen to put in this room. And y'all, I really do love this color, especially now that it is completely dry. Now it's time to focus on some of the little details. And y'all, I'm just going to tell you that when you're renovating a space, sometimes the smallest of details can make the biggest impact on a space. So we started out by changing out the doorknob because I want to go with some gold accents in here. I chose just a flat black matte doorknob, which I really love, so much so that I'm now changing all my doorknobs to this black doorknob style. I really, really love it. Then we went to work adding some curtains. We're going to hang some curtains here, and most importantly, changing out the light fixture. Now that the small details have been taken care of, we're going to head out into the shop and start working on some of the bigger details. We're going to start working on the built-in for that little cubby space and some bedside tables. And I will tell you, as with any woodworking project, it always starts out with a ton of measuring and marking and cutting, getting all of the pieces to size for cutting. Then we take everything over to the saws and start our cutting. So much cutting. We just cut and cut and cut and then cut some more. We're still cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting, and then we're gonna cut some more. I even jumped in and gave Michael a helping hand with the cutting, even though I was really scared to do so. Okay, so here we are working on the front, the faux drawer front for that little bump out in that cubby space. So to do this, we just cut a piece of plywood to the size that we wanted to create to, make it look like drawers. And then we just took it to the table saw and cut little grooves in it. And these little grooves are just going to kind of give us some kind of a division in the piece of wood to make it look like a faux drawer. Then we started drilling all the holes for the placement of our poles. And we used this little Craig jig, which was amazing. It made this whole process go so smoothly. Then on the back of this, because we're going to be attaching it to that, we needed those drawer pull screws to be flush. So we drilled some countersink holes in this so that we can countersink the screw so that this piece will lay flat against that bump out. And now it is time to start assembling the boxes for the actual shelving units that are going to be built in. So for this part of the process, there was a lot of pre-drilling and then screwing in screws to attach all the components. Now it's time to add the backing to our bookshelves. And to do this, we just added some glue all the way around and then came in with the brad nailer on all 4 corners, added just one little brad nail just to prevent movement so that we could come in and pre-drill all of our holes for the screws. We did permanently attach this with screws for extra hold. After this was built, it was time for the install, which I did not get footage of, so we're just going to go straight from the build to the big final reveal. And y'all, Welcome to our new guest bedroom. I could not be happier with how this space turned out. I am really loving it. I think the space feels very warm, inviting. It's very cozy. It has a very earthy, natural feel to it. It's not super themed, so it just has that neutrality, is that even a word? It has a very neutral feel. Okay, so behind the headboard we did decide to create this really pretty wood accent wall. To do this, we just cut little tiny 2-inch strips of plywood and then used a spacer to get that beautiful accent wall, and I do love how that turned out. I think it added a lot to the space. It kind of gave it a really nice finished look and just gives you an extra visually appealing thing to just add some depth and dimension and texture to the room. The built-ins I did paint green. I thought it would be fun to paint them green because I did the 2 green accent walls. Having that green in the corner really helps to balance out the space. I love how these bookshelves turned out. I love the built-ins. It gives the room a very finished, polished look, and it gives it that well thought out finish to the space. I think I love the faux drawers. I think they turned out really cool. It adds a lot of visual interest to that space. Even though they're faux drawers and not functional, they still look really cool. I definitely feel like that this was a good design choice to do that, and it kind of breaks up the 2 shelving units as well. I do still need to do some artwork for this wall over here. I'll get to that. I'll get some artwork built very soon, or not built, get some artwork done really soon for that space. So overall, y'all, I am very happy with how this whole room came together. Thank you so much, friends, for being here and hanging out with me while we did this room renovation and gave this room a complete and total refresh. I love how it turned out. I'm very excited about it. I think it's a very beautiful space. So thank you all again for hanging out with me and going through this whole entire process with us. It was a ton of fun. I look forward to seeing you all again in the next video. Until then, take care, and I will see y'all soon. Bye-bye, friends.